I'm really, we met Jacob last week, so now it's your turn. So first off, tell us a little bit about yourself and the role that you play there at Caption Call.
Sure. Thank you, Steve. I am the Caption Call account manager for Eastern Pennsylvania. I've been with Caption Call for 7 years, but we've had the Caption Call phone in our home for about 8 years. My husband and I have 4 children, and 2 of our children were born with hearing loss. And our audiologist signed up our children for the federal phone captioning program. And it was an amazing tool for our children to be able to make their phone calls by themselves. Job interviews, so many job interviews these days requires first a phone interview. And for people with hearing loss, that can be the end of their job interview process. So it was a huge, valuable tool for them. They are now, Caroline is 24, working on her doctorate in OT at U Sciences, and Clark is 21, working on a biomedical engineering degree.
Wow, what a great story. And, you know, we talk about workplace and job issues on these discussions quite frequently, and you are a model of what a great candidate is that think about a product or a service that you've actually used and you enjoy. What a great place to work. This is great. Give us a brief overview of what Caption Call is for those in the audience that are not familiar with it.
Sure. So Caption Call is a program that is provided at no cost under the federal captioning phone program. So there are no fees or charges for people that have difficulties using the phone. The phone actually types what the other person is saying, just like captioning on your TV. So we actually have a physical phone and the service. And as I said, that's all provided at no cost. The FCC is the administrator of the program, and they pay Caption Call to provide this service under the Americans with Disabilities Act.
Great. All right. Well, thanks so much to you and your team. And I understand you're really interested in this topic that we've got today.
Yes. So my parents moved in with us about 2 years ago. My father fell from a ladder hanging a Christmas tree and suffered a traumatic brain injury. And we are finally in the midst of making an in-law suite for them. And our plan is it's designed to be fully accessible, and we're incorporating smart home technology into that space to make them be able to live as independently as possible.
Well, you tuned into the right discussion. So thanks so much, Wendy. And let's move on to the topic of the day. And I am super excited about this. You know, for 30 years, I have been trying to convince our readers to make modifications before they're in the hospital and coming home. And it's been somewhat challenging, you know, to convince folks. And as we started doing these digital discussions, I realized, you know, this is the perfect venue for us to really put together a meaningful conversation on creating a safe and accessible home. And so I want to introduce two people that are very near and dear to me, and that's Laurie Pross and Louis Tenenbaum. And Laurie and Louis, if you can turn your cameras and mics on, and I will see if I can help you do that. Let's see here. Again, always got technical difficulties when it comes to these things. Okay, there's Louis Tenenbaum, and Laurie Pross. Laurie, say something. We can't see you, but we can hear you.
Okay, hi, everybody.
Okay, great.
I'm delighted to be here.
Okay, excellent.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay, good.
Yep, we can hear you. So first off, let me sort of explain the role that Laurie and Louis are playing here. Is both are on the board of directors of an aging in place village in Kensington, Maryland, called the Villages of Kensington. And now Laurie is our subject for the day because we're going to be looking at Laurie's home. She's a member of the village, and we're going to be sort of looking and commenting on various aspects of her home. You're going to get to see her home firsthand. And Lewis is one of the pioneers in this field of aging in place. And he has currently is leading a coalition called the HomesRenewed Coalition. So first off, Laurie, why don't you tell us a little bit about the Villages of Kensington? And then Lewis, let's learn a little bit about HomesRenewed, and then we will jump in with our panel and meet our panel. And then we're going to start looking at Laurie's home and seeing what things could be done there. So Laurie, tell us a little bit about the Villages of Kensington.
Villages of Kensington is a relatively small village in Montgomery County. And we've been in operation since about 2015. And we're, I would say, as I said, small, but beginning to gain steam. And we've been working with Steve to increase our marketing so that we can sort of try to incorporate some more services. And one of the things that we're doing or trying to do is to sort of encourage people to modify their homes if they do indeed want to age in places that we feel is really key. So that's one of the things that we're doing is this home modification or home retrofit presentation. So
I love
that's
it.
my contribution.
Yeah. And if this works, guys, what our goal is to jump around to other villages and replicate this in one way, shape, or form. Get to meet a village member, see their home, and sort of use it as a platform for discussion on things that we can do to remodel. So now, Lewis, again, another Villages of Kensington board member, but you've got the HomesRenewed Coalition. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what HomesRenewed is doing.
Sure. Thanks very much, Steve. We've known each other almost 30 years, I think now, at this space. I started as a carpenter wanting to build my own solar house, and eventually through a project in 1988, saw the power of what I could do with my hammer and my saw for families and individuals in terms of their own dignity and self-esteem and independence in their homes. Got involved with the aging network in Montgomery County and DC, Northwest DC, and concentrated my remodeling business on that area for 20 years. And I realized that there's a persistent question. Everybody says this is a really good idea, but people just don't do it. People don't step up to the plate and do it. Over $100 billion is spent by people over 55 remodeling their homes, but they're not doing the right things to actually allow them to age in place. So how can we move that ball forward? And the mission at HomesRenewed Coalition is to significantly increase the number of American homes prepared for residents to live throughout the modern lifespan by promoting consumer incentives on Wall Street, Main Street, and Capitol Hill. Incentives like those for solar collectors or hybrid cars. It really pushes people and opens the market. And our premise is that it's fundamentally unjust that the medical miracles of longer lives are not accompanied by safe homes where older citizens can choose to live with dignity and affordably throughout their lives. The fact is, our homes were built before people lived as long as they do. And like other infrastructure, whether it's an electric car, charging station, or an easy pass toll lane, or high-speed internet, our homes need to be updated. Business will get there, but we're all better off as a country, as an economy, and individuals if we can accelerate this movement. So the strength of the coalition, and I encourage you to go to the HomesRenewed Coalition website, and I'll put up the link into the chat. I encourage you to go to the HomesRenewed Coalition website and to join us. There's membership levels at all levels. We are having, I just got off a phone call with a Republican Hill staffer. They are all over this because it promotes business, it promotes jobs, and it promotes independence and Democratic staffers as well. I'm a little surprised at how interested the Republicans are myself, but it's about independence. It's about the American way. But the idea with the coalition is to leverage the broad cross-sector appeal of aging in place and the business of aging in place and the market for aging in place, so that we need support financially, but it also, that broad appeal demonstrates our voice on Capitol Hill and creates a path to grow an aging in place industry so everyone can live in the home they choose for as long as they want to, safely and affordably.
Great. Well, this is exciting, Louis, and we're real psyched to see where this initiative goes, and we hope everybody can support it. So let's at this time, let's bring on our panel, who is, let me just share my screen real quick so you can see everybody's name. But if our panel members can now share their screen, and I'm just gonna, we've met Laurie Pross, she's our homeowner in Kensington. We've met Louis Tenenbaum, Homes Renewed. We're gonna meet Greg Sieb of Live in Space, Ali Soltani with HandyPro, Stephen Hage with Strategies for Independent Living, and Greg Olavarria with Get a Grip Construction Services. So I think we've got everybody on the screen now, I believe.
No, not me.
Except for Laurie. Laurie,
Right.
you got to figure
What am
out
I
how to
supposed
turn
to do?
that camera on, okay?
Okay, well, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah, fine. I prompted you to turn your camera on, but
Yes, I know.
we can hear you, but so you can still participate.
I
Okay,
know, but I'm trying to
so
figure out
let's
what
get to know. Let's get to know our expert panel members. And on my screen first here, I've got Greg Sieb with Live in Place. So Greg, you want to tell us? There you go, Laurie. You want to tell us a little bit about yourself? Oh, and you got to unmute too. Sorry.
Thank you, Steve, and hello to everyone. So at Live in Place, since 2007, what we do is medically based assessments of a person's ability, and then fold that into the actual existing features of the home. And that allows us to address 3 levels: short-term, midterm, and long-term. Short-term, we assist people to return home safely from hospital and rehab. Midterm, it's about making the home safe with a higher level of independence. And then long-term, designs that have the potential, should people choose to successfully desire to remain age in place, long-term. So that's essentially what we do.
Great. Thanks, Greg. Okay, and then next on my list, I've got Ali Soltani with HandyPro. Ali, tell us a little bit about yourself and HandyPro.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for having us, Steve. It's a very exciting group. My name is Ali Soltani. I'm with HandyPro. We've been doing home modifications for people with limited mobility since 2013. And we are certified and licensed to do that. What do? We do anything from installing a simple grab bar in bathrooms and all the way to install any kind of elevators or lift. We do all kind of ramps, bathroom remodeling, and I myself been in the construction world for over 20 years. I'm a civil engineer, and also, as I mentioned, been specifically focusing on aging in place and home modifications since 2013. And we've been helping a lot of people to stay in their home. And in these days, it's much easier and cheaper to stay home instead of going to any facilities.
Great. Excellent. And next on my screen, I've got Greg Olavarria with Get a Grip. And Greg, it looks like you're in your Universal Design showroom there.
Yeah, yes, I am. I came to the office for this one. I'm very happy to be here. And I started in the business when I was 18, delivering wheelchairs, walkers, hospital beds for a medical company in Maryland. In 2006, I decided that people needed more than a wheelchair to manage living in their home. And that's when I started my company. Basically, what I like to do is go into a home, talk to the customer, find out what their needs are, and then either adapt the home for them or remodel the home for them. The most important thing about that is there's a price point for everybody. Some people can afford more than others. So if you go in and say, look, I can put a toilet riser on your toilet and it will cost you this much, or I can replace the toilet with a comfort height toilet, usually they're going to choose one of the two, but at least you're going to get them to do something to make their home safe. So that's basically what I go into the home and I try to do. That's it.
Great. Thanks, Greg. And yeah, and that's really one of the things that we're trying to do with this discussion is with these panel of experts that we've got, you're going to get to hear different perspectives and different solutions to the same challenge. And our last but not least expert on the panel is another person that I've known for at least 30 years, and that's Stephen Hage with Strategies for Independent Living. Stephen, tell us a little bit about yourself and your organization.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. And hi, everybody. I'm really excited about this. This is near and dear to my heart, this whole subject. And you know, what you find out and what we're talking about here, it's really about the people, and not about the, it's not about grab bars and ramps and stuff. It's about like us having a community and you know, and what I'd like for people to think about in this whole discussion today and moving forward is that, you know, all people are different, all family dynamics, all homes are different. And like Greg says, people have different reasons for wanting this or that or doing something else. And some of these things that we're going to suggest today and other in future conversations is about, well, you know, why would I do this? And, you know, and why would I do that? What's the difference? And there's a lot of different things. And a lot of this is really customized, if you will, to different folks. But it goes beyond even the home too, because really, you know, what the Villages is about is the Village movement is about community. And it's good for us to modify our homes, but it's also, but it goes beyond that. So when we can get out of our homes and into our community and have support from our community, then we have a more viable life and a good life to share with other folks. And so it's it's good to have a accessible home, and it's beneficial and healthy for us. But it's also good to have a healthy community at large. And so that's good.
I love it.
That's what I have on my mind. But just a little, my background is in construction. I've been in construction my whole career, and about 50 years going on pretty soon, and 30 years at this. On this topic, sort of focusing on this, and you know, and Lewis and I were banging the drum and ringing the bell, like, what about it? Let's get ourselves together. You know, you make plans for your finances. How about making plans for your own safety? So let's get going.
Love it. All right, well, let's jump into this topic. So Laurie, we're gonna take a peek at your house, and one of the things that I wanted to do, and I dropped this into chat with this discussion, is I wanted to sort of use as a starting point these AARP HomeFit guides, because these are free to everybody. If you go on the AARP website and you just type in HomeFit, you'll see a vast amount of resources, and they're very well done. Okay, they're free. They'll trigger some ideas and thoughts, and they'll at least get you started down this journey, and then you might outreach to one of our panel members as that discussion moves along. But so as we sort of looked at the AARP HomeFit checklist, you will notice that top of the list on everybody there is entryways. Okay, and so what we thought we would do is look at the entryway to get into Laurie's home, okay, as a starting point, okay? And I had the good fortune to go visit Laurie's home, and I shot a little video here that I'm gonna play, and then we'll show you some pictures that Ollie took, and then we'll hear from our panel on some different approaches and suggestions that Laurie could use for her entryway. So let's see how this video turned out here.
as you can see, we don't have any kind of accessible entrance.
All right. And then, so that's a glimpse at her entryway. And then here are some photos that you can see the way that you get into Laurie's house from the street. This is at her driveway, and inside the garage, there is a less barrier entryway with this garage door. So let me stop sharing my screen and let's hear from our panel on Laurie's entryways and entryways in general. And I'm going to start with Ali, since Ali, you went out to Laurie's house to shoot those photos. If you want to make some comments on the entryways to Laurie's house. Oh, and you've got more photos. This is awesome. So, okay, Ali, take it away. Make sure you unmute. Oh, you need to unmute. Here
You
go.
see the screen?
Yeah. Okay, I'm not
Back to
hearing.
the first one. You can hear me?
Yeah.
Now I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. So the front entrance, it's not a good option to make it accessible because it's very steep. And as you see on the right side, you have a little lip at the bottom as well. So you can't go to the street. If we want to do a ramp in the front, so it's going to be a very lengthy ramp and we have to zigzag in front of the home, something similar to this. For audience information, for every 1 inch height, we need 1 foot of the ramp. At this house, we're probably looking about 60 to 70 inch height. And with all the turning points and all the platforms that we need, we probably need about 80 to 90 feet of space to install the ramp, which it's not feasible and it's not looking good, and we're not suggesting it. But the other option is if we want to use any kind of outdoor stair lift on if someone has any stairs in the front of their home, something similar to these pictures that is here. But for the option in the garage, then we do have a very small step, which we can use a threshold ramp, which you see on the right side. That will get you into the house, but inside the house there are more barriers that we can talk in later when we talk about the stairs. But I think it's the best way to get into the house. We're not getting into the living space when we get to the house through the garage, so we have to take other steps to get to the living level of the house, which the kitchen and the living room and bathrooms and bedrooms are. Then we have to take approach. But as I mentioned, if you want to get through the main door, either we have to go through a very lengthy ramp, or we have to install some kind of outdoor stair lift.
Hey,
These are a little exaggeration
Yeah.
the pictures that I put, but it could get to that because the other neighbors has much higher elevation.
Okay. Hey, Laurie, what do you think of that in your front yard? Does that sound like a good option?
Oh, absolutely. I think the neighbors would just love it. Particularly with the wire, that would just really go over nicely. Yeah. Mhm.
Great. Well, this is great, Ali. And let's jump to our next panelist. And let's see.
I want to
here.
unshare my screen. Yeah, thank you.
There, I unshared it for you. Okay. All right. So let's talk to our next panelist. Let's go with Greg Sieb up in the upper right-hand corner. And our panel members could honestly, they could talk for hours on every one of these topics. We're all trying to keep our comments at 2 minutes or less, myself included, which is difficult, so that we can kind of get to your questions and we can jump into an open discussion here. So Greg, any thoughts on Laurie's entryways?
Yeah, Steve, would you put up my entrance pictures?
Okay, yeah, Greg had
I wanted
some.
to take this quick 2-minute approach to speaking about the mobility, since everyone's home is different, and then we can address Laurie. So on the grip you see in the bottom lower middle section there, that really involves good body mechanics. So if you don't have the sidewalk issues, but you have issues with the step heights, something as simple as that, might be of assistance without being too complicated. Beyond that, if you're returning home from a hospital or rehab short-term, in some locations like the garage, the portable ramp on the right would be a good answer. In this instance, with Laurie's front entrance, the garage, as Ali said, is really the only reasonable entrance. And there's a couple options there. The lower step rebuild there with perhaps 4-inch steps and railings, or if in the case of having neurological progressive illnesses involved with one of the family members, something in the modular category is a good answer, allowing them to walk now and be wheeled later as needed, but keeping their level of independence. And then finally, the front entrance, if you're aging in place and are serious and have the financial abilities, then a universal sidewalk, much like the one pictured on the top left, might be a good option there. Back to you, Steve.
Oh, great. Thank you, Greg. These are some great ideas. Okay. Let's see. Next on, Laurie, homeowner has a question here. Okay.
Just that very last, the picture of the universal design one with the curve to it. How much of that one could be applied actually to a house such as mine, which is, where the walkway is actually quite long and the slope is actually very, what am I trying to say, is gradual, but difficult because the flagstones that are being used now are very uneven and very difficult for most people with any kind of any kind of mobility issues to negotiate, as you can see here with the picture. So what I'm asking, I guess, is would it be doable to have such a thing all the way down? And have you ever seen it done so that it's not aesthetically unpleasing?
Yeah, really good question from our homeowner is, and this is also a good opportunity. I'd love all the panelists to comment on this, but let's jump to the next on my screen here is Greg Olavarria. What are your thoughts on sort of the Laurie's front yard and the potential to do sort of a sidewalk with railing towards her front steps?
Well, you just said one of the things I was going to suggest, but what you really need to do is not look at the house, but look at the person's mobility and look at how long-term it's going to be. Then you look at the aesthetics, because that plays a big part of what they're going to want to do. So what I would first recommend, if they're walking or walking with a cane for the time being, is butt all the stones together and make them straight so that you can't trip. And then put an iron railing along the side, on one side, for them to hold. That would be aesthetically pleasing to them and their neighbors. The next step is, if you were in a wheelchair and you wanted to use the front, you would pour it in a concrete from the curb, level with the porch entrance. So there would be only one step into the house where you could put a small threshold ramp. So that would be what I would do for the front of the house. And once again, that's a price point. One is going to be more than the other, okay? If you do the concrete and you put a railing on the side, obviously there's more labor, there's more material. If you do the stone, you might add 2 pieces of stone, straighten them out, and put an iron railing on the side. What you would have to tell them is the stones might move with settling, and it could be a tripping hazard down the road. If they were in a wheelchair, I would recommend, like everybody else, go through the garage. And then in the garage, you would either put a ramp for them to go up, but you have to look at the stairs inside also and see how they're going to get up their stairs, which is probably going to be a stair lift if they can transfer. So all these things are taken into consideration when you talk to a customer. So, and then you need to let them make the choice. It's very important that they're a big part in making this decision. So usually what I do in the front, and if they're asking about the front, I start with the front. And then I would recommend the side, and I would tell them do the front, When your mobility gets to the point where walking to all that distance is too hard, then we go to the garage and we start with the garage.
Great,
And that's what I would really do.
great comments, Greg. And Steve, Hage, any thoughts on or suggestions on ideas for Laurie and entryways? And then we're going to move the next part of Laurie's house we're going to move into is the stairway, and you're going to sort of see how you get to the stairs from the garage.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I agree with Greg. Everybody, I think, has the right idea, of course. Again, I want to remind people that, these are good ideas, and then you have to decide like what is going to be the idea for you for now. And some of the times, we have discussions with our clients, and we and maybe they're just aging in place. There's no particular disability at this time, but maybe they're, and so they're just planning ahead. There's also, like I say about the community, you want their neighbors to be able to visit, or family members to come and visit, and they might have particular limitations with respect to getting around. And so you want to try to weigh all that. But saying that, I would agree with Greg Olavarria that it's, you want to look at the expedient maybe first and say, well, we can straighten out this walkway as is. If from a budgetary point of view, it's kind of relatively easier, as he says, to butt up all those, reset all those stones into a straight line, and you'd have, you'd want to put a good base underneath it, make it all straight. And like he said, you don't want it to settle and be tripping factor and all that, and put a railing there. And you could even consider, cutting out that curb at the bottom if you wanted to. And that would be, that would get you an ambulatory person, would get along there pretty well. And folks like, older folks can, who that are maybe a little bit of balance, or we're using a walker or something, they could easily walk up there. It's a little steep, but not terribly so. And so you could do that. If you wanted a more uniform walkway, you'd put in concrete, as he says, but that's getting ahead, that's going maybe farther down the road. Knowing that you can do.
Laurie's, one of Laurie's friends and a fellow village member, Tammy Rickman, would love it if she could come and visit Laurie with a more accessible entryway. We got a question comment from Chuck Thornton, and he says, it is a single garage. It would be important to note if the disabled person is a driver or a passenger. And here's the entryway from the garage, but if you can see her garage here, it's a very narrow single person entryway. So I'm assuming that there would also need to be some extension to the driveway for somebody to get out of the car to get into the garage to enter in some way. Thoughts on the panel? And also, Louis, I don't know if you want to jump in too. I know that this is an area of expertise for you as well.
Yeah, I think one thing that you might lose the use of that garage, and a person exiting a car who's really using a mobility device, a one-car garage is a very tough spot. So that's an important consideration. In one case, we added a little roof outside the garage to kind of extend it so that there'd be room to unload outside. We put a little awning roof over that area and cleared a path there into the house next to the single garage door. So that's one strategy. I think this has been really well discussed by some really expert dudes. So I think we should move on.
Oh, I like it. I like it. So let's move on to the stairways. Okay. And so this is a video of the stairways inside Laurie's home. Okay. So here we go. Let's see how this goes.
So as you can see here, going down these stairs, we do have railings on both sides, which help with stability. Going up, we also have railings on both sides. As you come to the main level, we only have railings on one side.
Okay, so that is it.
So as you can see
Whoops.
here,
that is a brief video of the visuals of some of these stairways. And then again, Ollie went out and shot some photos, and you can see some of the different angles of the stairways and the doors. And the picture to the right is the one that goes down to the garage entryway. And here's some more stairway shots. So Laurie, would you, and you know, I want to jump back to a comment that Chuck made. We were in Chuck's comment, he said, you know, the person with the disability entering the home through the garage. Laurie, currently you and your husband do not have any mobility issues. Am I correct with that?
That's correct. I mean, you know, we're getting a little creaky, but we don't have any disabilities per se.
And one of the things, and as the panelists comment, is that one of the things is a lot of times people don't think about these improvements until they have mobility issues. And that's one of the reasons we like using Laurie, is to sort of say, here's a person that lives in this home, she's active and independent, but we could really make some improvements to make this more of a home for a lifetime. So let's see, I'm going to reverse order this time, and let's start with Steve Hage. Steve Hage, would you like to make some comments on stairways and in general, and Laurie's stairway situation?
Okay, well, stairs is usually the crux and the problem, the hard nut to crack with all these. And when you're talking about accessibility, and so if you can solve the steps, often you can solve the house, at least in the short term. And you know, stair lifts are a good way. They're relatively cheap equipment that can be put on the steps, and you can circumnavigate those steps. You know, so they're a good way to, as a strategy to, you know, to get up and down those levels. In general, you know, there are on the picture on the left is a straight staircase. On the right, there's a pie, what we call a pie shaped steps, where they've got the triangles going around the bend. You know, and depending on the budget, if you wanted a stair lift to go around the bend there, all the way around without stopping, you would put in what's called a custom stair lift, and that can be kind of pricey. A straight stair lift would be okay on all the straight steps. We've put straight stair lifts on pie-shaped steps, and it's a little funny, but it's, you know, it can be done. Most of us live, these folks on the panel, you know, we live in the world of sort of the gray area of life, where you try to do the best you can with what you got. You start with an ideal and you work backwards from there sometimes. But yeah, so strategically, trying to get in through the garage and coming up the steps, you'd use a stair lift. There is such a thing as elevators, you know, and you could forego the steps and find a place above the garage to go through the garage ceiling with an elevator. And after you consider the cost for the stair lifts, you might even consider that.
I noticed on this stair lift, Laurie, I mean, on this stair here, you've got a door at the top of those steps. And obviously, if a stair lift was installed, that door would need to be removed. Out of curiosity, do you ever shut that door, or is it just for ornamental purposes?
No, I close it all the time.
Oh, okay.
No, it's like a major divider between the upstairs of the house where, you know, things go on, and then where we're downstairs, and that door stays closed.
Great.
So
Okay.
it's used all the
Okay.
time.
Let's get to, I'm going reverse order, so I'm going to go to Greg Olavarria. And Greg, you want to share some thoughts on Laurie's stair situation?
Well, since Laurie is aging in place and isn't using any kind of a device, what I would do, and what I try to do with my customers, is when you age them in place, is gradually do this. Don't overwhelm them with more than they need at the time. I would tell her we put railings on both sides of the staircases so that you can have stability. The door at the top that swings open, if I can't convince you to remove it so I can add railing behind it, What I would do is on the opposite side, put a vertical bar. So as you turn the corner on the pies, because pies are narrow steps, you have something to hold on to until you can reach around with your other hand to grab the railing. Now, that's the simplest, easiest thing to do and makes the home still look like a standard home, not like you have a stair lift in it. If, once again, if you needed a stair lift, you could do a straight stair lift to the top of the pie. You would remove the door and you'd put railing on that wall so that when you got off the lift, you had something to hold on to on the left-hand side to walk up, or a curve on the other side. But once again, if you put a curve in, the door has to be removed. It can't stay there. So you're looking at getting rid of the door. Either way, you do a stair lift. Curved stair lifts can run between 10 to 15,000. I can put a straight lift in for you for $2,800 and a piece of railing in for a few $100s, which is significantly less money. And if you notice, you have more than one set of steps. So it's a price point for people. Some people can afford the curve, some cannot. So you have to give them options or they won't. If they can only choose a curve and they can't afford it, then what do we do? You know, this is a problem with a lot of people's homes and how much they can pay for. You have to come up with creative ideas for them and give them different options. So that's the one thing that I would definitely recommend to you.
Excellent. All right, Ollie, you're next up on deck. And make sure to unmute.
Okay, so as everybody says, yeah, there are different approaches that we can take. To Greg points, yeah, the first thing that you should do is putting railings if you don't have any mobility issues and just you are getting old and it's hard for you to take the steps. So both sides railing would be a great idea. And also we can put some strips on the carpet or on the flooring, you know, non-slip strips, so you don't slip when you come down or you're going up. But if someone has a really disability and they cannot take those steps, then the stair lift comes in place. As everybody mentioned, that there are two different types of stair lifts. Straight can go all the way to the pie, and then they have to take one or two last steps at the top by holding on something as a grab bar or vertical bar or railings. But if you want to go ahead and do the stair lift, there are ways that we can do for stair lifts. This is when you get into the house, this is on the right side, this is the stairs that you have in front of you when you get from the garage. On the right side, which there's a baby gate there, goes into the laundry room areas, and then you go up to the living area for the first step. So you can run a curved stair lift all the way from your laundry, the way that I draw the line, sorry for the sloppy line, and then have different stops everywhere. So these yellow marks are the different stops. So you can have it stops from the laundry room in the basement. And then when you go up, you will have another stop on the top and the living area. And then this can continue all the way to their bedroom because it's all on the same loop that you can go. If you look at this video, it's a very good example of looping around railings. This job was done last year in Bethesda. It was a townhome that they have 2-story high, and this one goes from the basement to the first floor. As you see, it's multiple wrapping around. As Greg says, there's a price point to it. So if someone really cannot do taking steps by foot, so then they have to do either this, and if they cannot even take 1 or 2 steps at the top, then there's no other way than putting a curved stair lift. And as you see, this is the other manufacturer that they have different kind of railings that we use for curved stair lifts. But custom curved stair lifts can be done to your stairs. And if you don't have that budget, then we have to work with maybe more, 1 or 2 straight stair lifts that sometimes we divide stairs. If it's like a 2-flight of stairs, we install one straight one on each, and they have to transfer from the mid landing. But these are all about that if they can take those steps with foot or not. But if you want to do a gradual prescription for this stairs, so yes, start with the non-slip like these. As you see, these are the strips on these steps. There are non-slip strips that we put on before we installing the stair lift, and then putting the railings on both sides. And then third option is straight stair lift, and the final option and the best option would be a curved stair lift. But these has all different, price points to it.
Great, great. And yeah, I'm glad you brought up the slip proofing, Ollie, because Elliot Grainer says, what about slip proofing flooring in priority order, kitchen, toilet, stairs, living, and bedrooms? But so I'll get your comments on those, but I want to give our other Greg Sieb, the opportunity to share his perspectives on the stairways, and then we'll be moving to some bathrooms, I believe.
Thank you, Steve. So our panel addressed option B, stair lifts, very well. So I won't even go there. If you're in your home and you have a single building, single railing from the builder, it is too short, which causes you to have to lean in order to get it from the top, and it runs out at the bottom, which is where many falls actually occur. So a second railing does two things. One is you extend it longer, like is pictured on the left, which allows a person to grasp it as they approach the stairway before they're leaning over the stairway, looking at their future down the stairs. So the other thing a second railing does, and I encourage everyone to get them because I already have placed them in my own home, is that when we have a single railing and we find ourselves putting two hands on one railing, we're starting to compress the diaphragm. We're starting to pull ourselves up the stairway. A second railing on both sides will keep us in a better straight posture. Our breathing's going to be better, and we're going to have more oxygen when we reach the top. So anyone who's had home care therapy knows why they're constantly taking oxygen tests when they come in. So that's it for me.
I love it. All right. Wow. Lewis, yeah.
Yeah, just quickly, I appreciate the conversation and the idea of starting in one place and going to another, but I think we should also consider kind of the end game. What would you do just in remodeling your home from the beginning now, thinking about it? And the thing I would say is, and Steve mentioned it a little bit, you could probably find a spot within the basement area that would straddle the line of all these stairs. It would mean some remodeling, but you could put in a 4 or 5 stop elevator that went from the basement in and out one side and the other all the way up, or a lift in a shaft. And that could really work for the long term. The way you maybe get into the house then is, like I said, that awning, and you'd carve out a little area next to the driveway and create an areaway and a door through that window that's next to the garage to get into the basement area and be able to move to this elevator spot. So there's also the idea that you could go kind of take the big road price-wise, go all the way and almost guarantee the ability to stay there throughout your life.
Right, and if I can, just a thing about to tag on to that is that when we're having this discussion about aging in place, you know, these are ideas that you can flesh out, and now's the time to talk about it. You don't do it right now, but you know it can be done. What's the feasibility? How much would it cost? That sort of thing.
Yeah, and before we go to bathrooms, let's, Elliot has a good question. Are there devices that allow you to pull objects up and down stairs, either machine operated or crank operated, with or without a platform to hold the object? A device that does not obstruct the stairs too much. It sounds almost like a dumbwaiter style product. Anybody have something like that that's available in this space?
I think the idea is you install a dumbwaiter. You've got it.
Okay.
Not since my kids have grown up, you know, and moved.
I did visit a woman's home who had stair glides that she wasn't using anymore because she recuperated, and now she kept them in there and uses them to move her laundry up and down the stairs.
Or just throw your coat when you come in the door. That's another good use for one.
Yeah. Let's see. Debbie Luddington says, do your panelists build or remodel in Frederick County? Debbie and everybody in attendance, I'll be following up with contact information with everybody on the panel. And so I recommend, you know, reaching out to our panel members, and they can, if they don't know somebody that can do it, they'll refer you. Heidi Garvis says, what about an elevator? And I think Lewis and Steve Hage have both addressed that. And let's see. Okay. Okay. Now we're getting close to the top of the hour, but I want to move to bathrooms, and our panel has agreed to stay on a bit longer than our normal, because we know that this is a topic that we can't discuss in an hour. So I want to I'm going to share a video of one of the bathrooms in Laurie's home that's in the basement. And then we've got a couple of photos as well. So this is her basement shower.
This is the bathroom on the garage, the lowest level, and it does have a shower, and which has a slight step. Requiring a slight step.
So
This is
so now and then these are some photos of a bathroom that we didn't videotape that Ollie took. But you know, I want Laurie and for everybody on the discussion, that bathroom is actually right next to the garage. So if you came into the garage, she has a nice guest bedroom that's on that garage level floor and that bathroom. So for the panel, before we kind of jump in to talking about bathrooms, do you find that sometimes your clients move their master bedroom to a different location of the house because it's more accessible? Is that a common practice? And I imagine there's some emotion involved in making a move like that.
Steve,
Yeah.
just quickly, there's really only three solutions if there are stairs in your home. One is what you just said, kind of repurpose a room on the floor where you can get access. And we all know that from, you know, people living, kind of moving onto the porch or having a commode and bed and so forth in the living room. Then there is adding space if your home, your neighborhood, your budget can afford it on that accessible level. And the third is what we've just been speaking about, which is some way to change levels and doing the associated with remodeling with that level. But you're exactly right. That kind of repurposing of a space or shifting is really an important strategy that a lot of people adapt. And it's a legitimate one if it accommodates your lifestyle.
Great. And let's see, next on our list, we're going in reverse order, and Greg has some photos that I can share here. Greg Sieb, you want to share some perspectives on Laurie's bathroom and bathrooms in general?
Sure, Steve. So a couple quick notes to start it off. Certainly grab bars should be in every home if we're on this panel. Anyone who's tuning in, and there are times where you know, a full roll-in is needed, like on the left there, you know, based on neurological things, which we do a great deal, way too many of with folks. And then some of the other pictures, I forget, Steve, can you flip it? Yeah, some of that is just quick term coming home, as we mentioned, from hospital or rehab. How do we survive and accommodate someone's needs to get back into their home without the time or the expense of immediate remodeling? And then the last one on the right is just an example of someone with limited mobility, but still getting around, needing to park a walker or a rollator at the outside of the door and enter in, and you know, have grab bars and be able to use the facilities that way. So keep it simple. Back to you.
Great. Okay. Next on my screen is Ali. Ali, you want to share some perspective on Laurie's bathroom
Sure.
situation?
Yeah, to Greg's point, to Stephen's point, yeah, grab bars needs to be, I think, in everybody's home, no matter what age you have. It's really it's a very simple and easy equipment to have in the bathroom, and it doesn't have to be ugly and, you know, shouting that I'm a grab bar, and it's not commercial looking. There are much nicer looking grab bars are out there, any color you want, any different shapes that, you know, kind of camouflage. You want to have a, toilet paper holder, which is a grab bar rated, and etc. So those are the very good short-term solution for people that they don't have too much disability problem. If they're coming from the hospital, if they have a short-term disability and it's going to go away if they had a surgery. But there are other options that we recommend to do that, and let me see. You can convert your bathrooms to different things. So for example, on the left side, we have an elevated top that we installed for a gentleman that he lost both of his legs in a war, and he could just slide himself into the elevated top, that door going left and right sliding. On the right side picture, it's a barrier-free shower with a track system on the top, which it's a ceiling lift that the person can independently move himself with the independence lifter and lower himself on the toilet or into the shower bench, which is not in the pictures. They will put it on after. That's a job that we finished and we took a picture. Or simple removing the top and make the shower barrier free. This was an apartment. We couldn't lower the level, so we had to do a little ramp. I don't know if you can see it in the picture or not. We did it, a little ramp goes into the shower and putting some grab bars. But to summarize, grab bars and DME products such as transfer bench, and which Stephen brought up, and other stuff, those are the short-term solutions. But for the long-term solutions, barrier-free showers, walking tops, rearranging the bathroom, depends on the size of the bathroom and the budget, can be done. Back to you.
Great. Excellent. Okay, Greg O. I got Greg S and Greg O. I'll go to Greg O with Get a Grip. Greg, you got some comments on bathrooms.
Well, yes, but the first thing I wanted to comment on is people and human nature is they live in their home for 30 years. They like their bathroom. Their wife likes their bathroom, and it's difficult sometimes to get them to change. So as far as bathrooms go, you're better to focus on the bathroom that they use the most rather than trying to move them to another part of the house, because then they're not in their bedroom anymore and they're not using their bathroom anymore. As far as bathrooms go, one of the most important things are, yes, grab bars. I also feel that toilet height is important, that replacing towel racks with grab bars that will support their weight. Taking the door and swinging it the other direction, because most doors swing in a bathroom, which can be a problem if someone falls against it and they're in the bathroom by themselves and can't get up. Now you have to try to push the door in or break the door down to pick them up. So by making it a pocket door, swinging it the other direction, or just taking it off in general and putting a curtain there so that they can get in and out, is a very simple way and a very quick way of making it easy for them to come in and out. Regarding a tub, you have a transfer bench you could use. If they can't step over the side, you can cut the side of a tub out and make it like a shower that you step in and out. That modification is $1,500 and I do it in 4 hours. Okay. Having a chair to sit in is important, and a handheld down by their side so that if they were washing their hair and closing their eyes, they don't lose their balance because they're sitting. Okay. And that's somebody who is aging in place. If you can't bring your walker in because it's too wide, that's where if there's no door, maybe you can get it in. If not, you have to have products that when they walk through the bathroom, they have things to hang on to. Lighting is important too, because in the evening they walk in, they don't want to turn their lights on. Half the time they trip. Any kind of a carpet should either have a rubber back on it so that it doesn't slip when they're stepping out of the tub, or just removed altogether. If you're going to remodel the bathroom completely, yes, roll-ins are very good. They're also, the modification is you got to do a lot more to it. You can take a tub out though and put a shower pan with a liner, and you can do that. It's a lot less expensive than modifying the entire bathroom. There's so many things that you could talk about to help people. And the price points for, like, let's say a track system and a complete remodel is $50,000. To cut the side of a tub and widen the door and put a taller toilet in and some grab bars on the walls and inside the shower, you're looking at $2,000 to $3,000. So it's always a very important thing when you talk to a person is you know, if you approach them with a $50,000 job, they're going to say, oh, no, I can't do that. You have to give them different options. So they'll choose one of the two just to be safe in their home. So
Great.
that's what I focus on. Okay.
Great. Good, great. And Steve Hage, you're next on the list. And actually a question from somebody, Steve, you might want to comment on it. There's a concept called comfort toilets, correct? Is that a category of toilets?
There is what is generally understood to be what's called a comfort height toilet. That's kind of comes out of the industry, that term. There's other terms for it, and what it is just a little bit taller. It's in fact the plumbing industry sort of standardized it, and so did the Transportation and Barriers Board. They've made it now ADA compliant, which is, and the comfort height toilet is about 2 inches taller than a standard toilet, or the older, lower standard toilet. It's about 16 inches, say 7 with the seat, it's about 17 inches tall.
Great.
Now, and which is fine. And there are some folks now, I've done work for folks and changed toilets, and the people are really small and they don't want a big tall toilet. You have to really be careful. You know, you don't want to just out of hand give somebody a tall toilet. And now they can't reach the floor. You know, that's ridiculous. So you have to really be careful. But for anybody over, you know, 5'8", 5'6" and up, you know, you can use a taller toilet, and it will get the whole thing about toilet seat height comes from sort of being at a level of a wheelchair, so you can transfer straight across from a wheelchair seat, and that's really more like 18 inches or so. And some of my clients, you know, need more like which is sort of like a dining room chair, is about 18 inches. But there are some folks who need a 20-inch seat or a 22-inch seat, you know, things like that. So there's, you know, and so sometimes we'll put a riser on the toilet, on a comfort height toilet. But anyway, to answer the question, yes, there's a comfort height toilet that's 2 inches taller than the standard, and it's just a little bit more of a boost.
Great.
Yeah.
Any sort of additional thoughts on Laurie's bathroom?
On the bathroom, yeah. I guess I'm trying to remember. I think planning ahead for aging in place. If like folks have said, yeah, you can. And thanks for the pictures, you guys. It's really helpful to have pictures. But if I'm in there talking to somebody, there's some of these folks in the audience want to figure out, well, what should I do for my house? You can know that your tub can be removed and converted to a shower at relatively small cost. The picture on the right has a standard 5-foot long bathtub in it that could be removed, and it would affect the tile. It does affect some things, but you can pretty much dig out that, convert that tub to a shower without changing the rest of the room. As a general statement, the bathroom on the left looks like it's sort of distorted a little bit, but it looks like it's a 4-foot wide shower with a little step over. That's going to be really good for most folks. If we get into a wheelchair situation, that'll change things, because it always does. A wheelchair changes the dialogue profoundly, of course, because you can't get around things like that. But
yeah,
so that's some comments.
Some of the questions, a lot of the questions that we're getting relate to wheelchair accessibility. And in fact, Chuck Thornton says, how about wheelchair accessibility as far as doorways and vanities? And as you look at both of these bathrooms here, the vanities are not something that you could roll into or sit down underneath. Let's see. I think, as we just decided prior to this event, is we're going to only have time to get through these 3 parts of Laurie's house. So I'd like to kind of open things up to a wider discussion and answer any questions that you all have on universal design, on your house, or what have you. And so if you've got questions, type them in the Q&A box. You can raise your hand as well. Marianne Griffin has her hand raised. Louis, you want to make a comment? And then I've got a question from Brent Lizio. I want to direct to the panel. And then Marianne Griffith, we're going to call on you. So Lewis?
Yeah, just quickly, Steve, I don't know if it's hard to go back to that photo, but the bathroom that had, first of all, it had a bidet toilet seat, which is one of my favorite products. I love it. I encourage people to get them. They're a hygiene product, a luxury product, and both. Second of all, if you look at that bathroom momentarily, if it were truly curbless instead of a mini curb and the shower door removed, and as you say, the vanity were open beneath, then you can all of a sudden see how that bathroom would contain this maneuvering space that would make it easy for a person and or a caregiver to work together in that bathroom using a wheelchair or not. Similarly, in the bathroom on the right, if it were opened up for a curbless shower, as Steve mentioned, you get all this space, this kind of bonus space, because the shower floor and the room floor are one floor. And that gives you that maneuvering space, which is so important when caregivers and caregivees are, in this sort of three-legged race together of maneuvering as one.
Great comments. Let me ask the panel. This is a good question from Bren Lizio. Can you suggest manufacturers that create the most beautiful grab bars? Anybody?
Well, Ponte, what is that called? Ponte Gricchio? I can't remember now. Out of Chicago, they've got some pretty good ones. I don't know. That's a funny question because it's a matter of it's pretty subjective. What does a grab bar look? Does it look bad or not? They've come a long way since we started.
Great.
There's some very ugly ones out there.
Yeah.
I would add, all manufacturers
Oh.
have upscale lines of brushed nickel, brass, etc. People should also keep in mind, is this just for a powder room? But I would avoid them at times in the showers themselves because they don't have as good a grip in many instances.
There's just some photos of grab bars in colors, grab bars in shapes. They don't need to be your grandmother's grab bar.
Yeah,
Any
these
rare
pictures
bar is better than none.
that Lewis is sharing, it's as a manufacturer from Italy that they make any color you want, and that they wrap their grab bars with a silicone, so it's not going to get cold and it's not going to be slippery, and you can get almost any color you want, pink, orange, blue, whatever color you want, you can get it, and it's silicone wrap, because a lot of people complain about the grab bar being cold when they grab it, but these grab bars will not have that problem.
Great. Let's see. Okay, I said Marianne Griffin was gonna, she's got a question, so I'm gonna unmute her mic. But while she does that, Chuck Thornton says, what are your recommendations for kitchens? That's a huge issue. Chuck, we only had time to get through these three things. I say our next one, maybe we focus on some kitchens or an individual's kitchen. But does any of the panel members have some general thoughts on design in kitchens?
There are a lot of aspects that you can work on a kitchen. Like, as you mentioned, it's a full topic by itself. But lowering appliances that they are higher, there are motors that we can put inside the wall cabinets that they lower the shelves for them to put their stuff in. Have the sink open underneath so they can roll under. There are a lot of things that you can do in the kitchen, which I think we have to dig into it in different topics in different days.
Great. Yeah, Grego.
Well, I have a kitchen in my showroom here, and if you're in a wheelchair, some of the important things are having the oven and stove down where they're accessible, having a microwave where you can reach it, a split level fridge, because if you have a standard fridge with a freezer below or a freezer above, there's a lot of things that you're not going to be able to access. But if it's split level, split refrigerator, now you have accessibility to both sides, because you're not going to stand up to grab things out of the freezer if it's on top. So it's just a more functional refrigerator for you. And you just need everything to be accessible by wheelchair, most important thing.
Great. Marianne, I think your mic is open now.
Yes, Thank you. Steve, I have a question for the group in general. Many of us in upper Northwest DC live in neighborhoods where we have historic preservation, which adds whole nother layers in terms of permitting, et cetera. Have any of you worked, particularly with the outside? It's very clear about what needs, what you're allowed to do and not. Have any of you had experience on how to make the case for historic preservation for any of the changes that you discussed earlier?
Wow, great question. Go ahead, Grego.
Well, this is true. In Georgetown, I've had difficulties with this. One thing you can do is if it's temporary and not permanent and it can be removed, a lot of times they'll allow it. Otherwise, yes, you're going to have to design an iron railing that's almost exactly like the other iron railing and get approval for these types of things. But if it is considered temporary and you have a disability, it's pretty difficult for them to say no to that.
Great. Laurie, somebody noted that you were waving your hand that you wanted to say something. Did you want to make a comment? And I think our audience is curious. What do you think about what these guys are saying about your house?
Listen, I'm there, particularly with the stairs. I want one of those stairs, but a spiral one that goes all the way, because we have 4 sets of stairs. So we'll have to save our pennies.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Tim Titus has a great comment and question. How do you avoid over-designing for aging while preserving the marketability for resale? Great question for the panel.
The key thing is that you're making your home. It's really hard to find a home with these types of features. If they're done beautifully, they disappear. You take those 2 points together and realize that your home, well-designed, well-looking with these features, is the most desirable one on the block.
Cool.
And then, to comment more on Louis, exactly. If it's done correctly, you don't even need to remove them if someone moves in and they need it. The other day when I was meeting Laurie's home, she just renewed her bathroom, as you saw in the pictures, the smaller bathroom, and she wanted to put the grab bars on the very expensive tile and make penetration into those. And I suggested her, you can have some grab bars from Germany that we can install with a special glue that it can be removed after you don't need it. So these are the things that we sometimes think about of resale value. And I told her, if you want to sell your house or you don't need them anymore sometime, then it easily can be removed instead of going through all repairing on your tiles as well. So there are some stuff, depends on the situation, we can recommend for the resale value or design it somehow that it can be removed less harmless to the house.
Great. Yeah, Grego, if you want to comment, and then Beth Wiseman has a question, so I'm going to unmute you, Beth. Go ahead, Greg.
Well, unfortunately, I can be very honest with customers, and I'll ask them, how long do you intend to be in the house? And they say, well, until I drop dead. So why are you worried about resale? Let's just make it very functional for you. Unfortunately, it's the truth, for a lot of my seniors, and I'll see, 4 or 5 a day. So.
Great. Good comment. Beth, I think your mic is open. You have a question?
Not a question, a comment. We had a sample house in Pikesville that someone who made these changes did, and he took tours on it. The house was gorgeous, and he had to point out that these were the changes made. Nobody would know it. Step by step, he said, look, this one, and you just kept going, oh, really? It was really gorgeous. So there was no problem in the resale at all if you make these changes. Thank you.
Great point, Beth. And I think all of our panel members, that's what those are the types of jobs you all aspire to, are the ones that you can really spend time with the customers, create a design that's customized for the family and doesn't look institutional. I think what I hear from people in your profession so often is you get that phone call when somebody's in the car on the way home from the hospital, and you've got to make changes immediately on a tight budget.
Steve, if I can just jump in, that's a great point. The interface between the discharge planning process and the remodeling process is really poor. good remodeling takes real time and planning. And that's part of the reason I want to, behind the coalition efforts to incentivize people to do this while they're remodeling, make it beautiful, get your home ahead of the time. Maybe you won't fall. Prevention's a really important part, but also you can return home where you're happier and more comfortable more easily if your home has been updated before something that might happen does.
Excellent. Okay, we got 2 more questions, and jump in there, Greg S. But I got 2 more questions, and then we'll kind of wrap things up. Greg?
Louis, thanks for those comments. And I wanted to throw one thing in retro back to the kitchens. It's great to have time and the financial ability to do the remodeling. But if you're on the way home from rehab or you're newly in a wheelchair, you have limited resources. It's also about organization. So in the kitchen, my comment is the 80-20 rule. Like you said, get the microwave down, but do the 20% that you use 80% of the time. That can be reorganized. So that's actually a discipline with a good occupational therapist. Thanks.
Love it. Okay, let's see. This is a good question from Janet Gritz. How do no barrier showers eliminate water leaking onto the floor outside the shower area? I've always wondered that, because you could be creating a slipping hazard if this is not done correctly. I'd love comments from the panel.
For one thing, we usually use this tile that's similar to what you use on a swimming pool deck. Kids are running on swimming pool decks all the time. Each tile has a coefficient of friction number showing how slip resistant it is. So if you use limited, tiles with a high coefficient of friction outside the shower area, and particularly from my point of view, lots of grout lines, so 2-inch tile, not 12-inch tile, then you don't create these slip surfaces. Your foot grips at both the tile surface and the joints between the tile. And I typed in there already that, the qualified people, like the people on this call who know what they're doing, qualified tradespersons, know how to create a room where the water is going to slope back to the shower. It's just not really that big a problem. We've all done them. I've done them in high-rise buildings, and it didn't leak into all the apartments in the 17 floors below. So it works.
And also, we do waterproofing the entire floor. So if any water comes out, as far as water leaks, it's not going to leak anywhere. Just we need to be careful about the slipperiness of the shower. But if it gets done correctly, the whole bathroom needs to get waterproof, so no water goes anywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
A tradesperson knows how to make it lets the water, knows how to catch the water and put it down the drain. What the issue in practice, what happens is that when you have a, let's say, accessible shower, there's no curb. A lot of times you have the curtain, you might have a curtain on it, but it's open because you have a caregiver, let's say, helping me with the shower, in my shower. So the water spray can get out on the outer floor area. And that's just in practice. You got to wipe it up. Sorry, that's just the way it is, but it's not flowing water. There's the flowing water goes to the drain, doesn't get outside of the shower area.
Louis is correct that the tile you use is very important. Even if it gets wet on the outside, if you have a 2x2 tile that has a texture, you're much less likely to slip. What's more important is there's no damage to anything on the outside where there's no vinyl floor, and water getting on the baseboards or stuff like that if you don't do it in tiles. But let's face it, most people with a roll-in have an aid. They have a handheld. They're being bathed, and they're pointing the handheld to the inside of the shower. They're coming out in a wheelchair regardless, on the barrier freeze. So, it just really depends. Mopping it up too. It's pretty important. Keeping it dry.
Yep. Great. Wow. Okay. So now the last sort of question comment is somebody who says, please talk about and discuss all bedrooms and full bathrooms with a bathtub and shower are upstairs. How to locate a full bedroom with a full bathroom on the first floor with a kitchen and an entrance to the home. I like this question comment because it addresses aging in place and aging in community. Do you ever stumble into clients who they really want to adapt their home to make it a home for a lifetime, but the mechanics and the bones of the home, just, it may be cost prohibitive? to actually modify that home, but they could stay in the same neighborhood if they found a different home with a different floor plan. Anybody want to comment on that?
I've had that, Steve. People have called me, or I've called them back 2 or 3 weeks after a consult and informed them, and they are embarrassed to tell me sometimes that they've decided to move. And I always say, look, you found a better place in your neighborhood, as you say. And I've helped you to make an informed decision about that, because maybe your house wasn't a great candidate for this type of remodeling, then I feel like I've done my job. Informed decisions make us comfortable with our own lives. And in some cases, I've gone on and helped them, make smaller adaptations to their new place.
Great. Let's see. Another question came in, and this is actually a really good wrap-up question. It's Susan Kimmel says, what is the Villages of Kensington doing to help your members update your homes? And Susan, I will tell, because I'm on sort of this planning exploratory committee, this discussion is sort of a step in the first direction, is to sort of have a dialogue and see if there's areas where we can use the members of the villages to sort of inform them on some of the changes they can make and connect them with experts in the field. But Laurie or Lewis, you guys might want to comment on that.
The whole idea with the village movement is to gather people together who are like-minded and love their homes and communities, and provide all kinds of resources through the miracle of community. And that's why I'm involved with the village movement. Laurie?
I would say the same thing. We're trying to, with this presentation as a start, we're trying to invite them to start thinking, which I guess is really the beginning. And
Great.
then we will invite them to start thinking again, because I think we have to keep doing it. It's not a one-shot deal.
And of course, one more question came in that I think is super important. This ties into what Lewis is doing, but I believe some of the remodelers some of the professionals on this call are aware of resources. It says, are there any tax incentives for building, remodeling with universal design? I know Ali, and I think some of you all are involved in a program in DC where there are some incentives already in place for this. But Lewis, this is your mission for Homes Renewed, correct?
It is exactly our mission, to get people thinking about it and make it so that it's just still beautiful, but a little less expensive to do it the right way. One of our primary goals is to make the availability of 401k and IRA money without tax or penalty for the elements of a remodeling project that contribute to accessibility and safe aging in place. And that way, everybody starts to be able to push these ideas because they actually cost less. There's also, though, I worked for 10 years, and Beth Wiseman has been on the chat about this. The Design for Life Montgomery program is a little cumbersome to make use of, but it is one of the first visitability and tax credit programs using property tax credits in the country.
Does anybody
can get up to 10 grand tax break in Montgomery County by doing any home modifications. And the program that you mentioned in DC, those are for lower income people. That there are a lot of programs for people that has a lower income and a threshold, that they have a threshold. They can help from the counties and the state. And DC has a program, Safe at Home program, which we are involved with it. I think Greg O that's involved as well with that program as well.
Great. Holy cow, it's an hour and a half. And I tell you, I feel like we just scratched the surface, but this to me was one of the best discussions on this topic that I've ever been involved with. Laurie, what do you think? Do you think you and your husband are going to be thinking about some of these improvements to your home?
Oh, heck yeah. I mean, I've been talking to him about a stair lift for a couple of years now. So that will continue. That discussion is going to continue. And then I think we're going to do something about grab bars in this master bathroom that we've just redone. I don't know what exactly, but something. So that discussion is going to continue.
Laurie, The one thing I'd remind you of is a stair lift is for somebody who literally can't walk their stairs. If you put one in too soon, you actually lose muscle tone in your legs and make your mobility even worse. Use your
I
hand railing
understand.
as long as you can.
All right. Oh, I'm not talking about installing it right this instant. I'm talking about the need to think about setting aside some pennies so that we have the money to install it when it's necessary. That's all. He
Okay.
takes a while to convince, you see. So I always have a 5-year plan going.
Okay, that's better, yeah.
Okay?
Always remember that the first place that you fall is in the bathroom, second place is the staircase.
Oh, I know.
So,
I know.
these are the most, and you already tackled the bathroom, and in the future you will want to do something, either putting railings or stair lift in the staircase.
Yes.
I fell on the stairs. I fell on my stairs and broke my neck when I fell on my stairs. I have epilepsy, so I had a seizure at the top, broke my neck by the time I was at the bottom. So I had to have it fused. So, you know, disabilities, I totally understand because I have one of my own. So.
Right.
All right, guys and gals, this was great. I'm gonna close this out. We'll send the recording, we'll send the contact info, and stay tuned. We're gonna do this again. And I want to thank everybody for staying on for so long today.
Thank you all very, very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.